American football, a sport deeply woven into the cultural fabric of the United States. A game where strategy, physicality, and passion collide, thrilling millions every season. But despite its overwhelming popularity today, American football is a relatively young sport with a fascinating origin story. It's a tale of evolving rules, fierce debates, passionate students, and visionary innovators. It's a story rooted in ancient folk games but blossomed into something uniquely American. In this video, we'll explore the very start of American football, tracing its humble beginnings from the mid-19th century through its transformation into the sport millions know and love. We'll uncover how a mixture of soccer, rugby, and new ideas merged on American college campuses to create the game we call football. Chapter 1. The Roots. From old world games to the new world. To understand American football's origins, we must first look at the games that inspired it. For centuries, various forms of football were played across Europe, especially in Britain, where the seeds of modern soccer and rugby were sown. These early football games were wildly diverse. Sometimes they involved entire villages and towns playing in streets or open fields, with very few rules. Matches could last hours or even days, often ending with injuries or damaged property. As England's schools and universities began to formalize sports, they started to develop codified rules. This led to the establishment of two main types of football: association football, or soccer, which focused on kicking a ball and generally prohibited handling it; rugby football, which allowed carrying the ball, tackling, and featured scrums where teams fought for possession. These distinctions became formalized by the mid-19th century with the formation of the Football Association, FA, in 1863, and the Rugby Football Union, RFU, in 1871. When British immigrants and colonists came to America, they brought these games with them. However, American colleges did not adopt these sports wholesale. Instead, they began developing their own versions on campus. Chapter 2. Football on American campuses. A melting pot of styles. By the mid-1800s, many American colleges and universities had started playing football-like games. But these were not standardized. Each school had its own interpretation of the rules. For instance, Harvard played a game known as the Boston Game. This hybrid sport mixed elements of rugby and soccer, allowing both kicking and carrying the ball. Meanwhile, other schools like Princeton and Rutgers played games closer to the London Football Association's soccer style. The challenge was that when teams from different colleges wanted to compete, they often had to negotiate rules before each game, because no official standardized code existed. Sometimes these negotiations were lengthy and contentious. In fact, these early contests could be chaotic affairs with a wide range of gameplay styles. Teams could have as many as 25 players, and the rules for tackling, passing, and scoring varied widely. Despite this chaos, these early games built enthusiasm and laid the groundwork for organized competition. Chapter 3. The first intercollegiate game. Rutgers versus Princeton, 1869. One landmark event in the history of American football took place on November 6, 1869. This was the first intercollegiate football game, played between Rutgers and Princeton. This match is often cited as the birth of American football, but it's important to understand that the game played bore little resemblance to today's football. The game was played with 25 players per side and resembled more of a soccer match than a rugby contest. Players primarily kicked the ball and tried to score by getting it past the opposing team's goal line. Carrying or throwing the ball was not part of the game. Despite these differences, this game marked the beginning of organized intercollegiate football competition in America. Rutgers won that day by a score of 6-4. The match drew significant attention on campus and beyond, and soon other colleges sought to arrange similar contests. Chapter 4. Early efforts at standardization. The 1870s and the challenge of rules. After that first game, football's popularity on college campuses grew quickly. However, the lack of consistent rules created problems. In 1873, representatives from 4 schools, Princeton, Yale, Columbia, and Rutgers met to try to standardize rules for intercollegiate play. They adopted rules based largely on the London Football Association's regulations, which were essentially soccer rules. Harvard, however, refused to join this effort because they preferred the Boston game, which allowed carrying the ball and more physical contact. This disagreement set up a split in styles and created tension over which form of football would dominate. Chapter 5. The Harvard-McGill Games and the Rugby Influence. A crucial turning point came in 1874 when Harvard invited McGill University from Montreal to play a two-game series. McGill's team played rugby-style football, where the ball could be carried, players tackled each other, and scrums were part of play. Harvard found this style exciting and adopted the rugby rules for their games. This switch was important because it shifted American college football away from the soccer-style games toward a rugby-influenced style that emphasized physicality, ball carrying, and strategic plays. Chapter 6. Walter Camp, the father of American football. While rugby football shaped early American football, the game as we know it today really began to take form through the work of Walter Camp. Camp, a Yale player and coach in the late 19th century, was a visionary who introduced several rule changes that made football more strategic and distinct from rugby. His key innovations included reducing the number of players on the field from 15 to 11. This made the game less congested and faster paced. Introducing the line of scrimmage, which replaced rugby's chaotic scrums. This created a clear boundary between offense and defense. Establishing the system of downs, where the offense had to advance the ball a minimum distance within a set number of plays or lose possession. Initially, the rule required moving the ball 5 yards within 3 downs, formalizing the role of the quarterback as the team's offensive leader who directs plays and handles the ball. These innovations transformed football into a more tactical and exciting sport. Games became less about brute force scrums and more about skill, strategy, and teamwork. Chapter 7. The Brutal Beginnings. Injuries and National Concern. Despite Walter Camp's contributions, football in its early years was still an extremely violent game. Protective equipment was minimal, and players often suffered severe injuries, including broken bones and concussions. In fact, football's brutality sparked public outcry in the early 1900s. In 1905, there were 19 deaths and more than 150 serious injuries related to football nationwide. Many called for the sport to be banned. Chapter 8. Theodore Roosevelt's Intervention and Football Reform. The growing concern about football's safety caught the attention of President Theodore Roosevelt, himself a fan of the game. In 1905, Roosevelt summoned representatives from Harvard, Yale, and Princeton to the White House to urge them to make the game safer. He believed football built character and toughness, but needed reform to reduce injuries and fatalities. These meetings led to the formation of a new governing body to oversee college football rules and safety, the Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the United States, or IAAUS, founded in 1906. This organization would eventually become the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, and it implemented many rule changes to make the game safer. Chapter 9. The Forward Pass. Revolutionizing the game. One of the most significant rule changes came in 1906 with the legalization of the forward pass. Before this, football was largely a running game, with teams trying to physically rush through the defense. The forward pass introduced a new strategic element: the ability to throw the ball forward to teammates downfield. While the forward pass was initially risky and underutilized, because incomplete passes could result in turnovers, over time it became central to the sport. Passing opened up the field, forced defenses to cover more ground, and increased the game's excitement and unpredictability. Chapter 10. The Growth of College Football. Tradition and Rivalry. During the early 20th century, college football grew rapidly in popularity. Big universities built massive stadiums, rivalries developed, and football became a key part of campus life and American culture. Some programs became legendary, including Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Notre Dame, Michigan, and Army. The annual Rose Bowl, first played in 1902, became the oldest and most prestigious college bowl game, further boosting the sport's profile. College football became a major spectacle, attracting thousands of fans and huge media attention. Chapter 11: The emergence of professional football. While college football thrived, professional football struggled in its infancy. In the early 1900s, pro football teams existed mostly as informal, loosely organized groups in cities and towns. Players often moved between teams, and schedules were irregular. But in 1920, this changed when team owners gathered in Canton, Ohio, to form the American Professional Football Association. 2 years later, in 1922, the association was renamed the National Football League, the NFL. This marked the formal beginning of professional football as a major organized sport. Chapter 12: Football's place in American culture. By mid-century, football was much more than just a game. It was a symbol of American values: teamwork, determination, and resilience. From high school fields to massive professional stadiums, football inspired passion and community pride. The Super Bowl, first held in 1967, quickly became a cultural phenomenon, watched by millions around the world and synonymous with American celebration. The legacy of American football's start. American football's journey from informal games on college campuses to a national obsession is a story of evolution, innovation, and cultural importance. Rooted in British folk games and shaped by American ingenuity, it became a sport that reflects the spirit of a nation. Its history reminds us that behind every touchdown, every cheer, and every legendary game lies a rich tapestry of people, ideas, and moments that transformed a simple game into America's game. Thank you for joining this deep dive into the origins of American football. If you found this fascinating, please subscribe and share your thoughts about the game's history or your favorite football memories. Until next time, stay curious and keep celebrating the spirit of sport.